This is part one on two Sears tractor restromods. This one here you're looking at is a 1973 SS16, which is being converted into a GT18 hydro drive. So it has the same style of hydro and transmission that the GT18 hydro drive is supposed to have. So I already did that work already and got that swapped in and made sure it actually worked. That took about 2 years to get the right parts and everything to get that figured out. And then I've got the silver fender sitting over here, a bunch of parts piled over here, kind of like all over in this room. And then the other tractor is a 1974 ST16, which this one is still going to be basically an ST16, except the only difference is the engine isn't going to be original, and it's not going to have original paint colors. It's going to be white and black and have the red roper swoops on the front of the hood. And basically it'll be a white and black roper, but ST16. But I'm going to get the fenders put on this tractor, the floorboards, the side panels, and then we'll kind of go from there. I have to make a battery tray and clutch from scratch, so that'll be fun. And probably get an engine mounted, but we'll go from there. Alright, so got a whole bunch of stuff done. I was starting to do a time lapse on it, but I'm like, it just got too boring and too long in time in between getting anything done. I just said forget it. So long story short, of course I got the floorboards, the fenders, gas tank, which is just for looks, it's full of holes. But the engine I'm going to use, which is that Honda GX390, has a gas tank on it, which will be under the hood. I just wanted something to take up space to make it look a little bit more original. So something else that I had to do is the distance between the fender and the tire was actually originally nothing. So these spacers right there I had to put in, so then that way it'll lift it up a little bit, because I guess when I mounted the brackets in there I didn't measure correctly and it was way too low. It was actually touching the fender. So I had to do that, which was a little complicated because the front of the rear axle had to go down as well as kind of like pivoting. So that was a little tricky. Then of course I got this homemade dash, which is made out of just black plastic screwed together to look like the original hydro drive dash. And then steering wheel off of a 73 ST16. So that's the same steering wheel a hydro drive is supposed to have. And then the forward and reverse lever is, well, you could probably already guess it already, is a more deck lift linkage lever. So you just push this down and it'll go forward, and then of course push it back, and then it'll, somewhere there is neutral and it'll hold it there. And so if you bump it, it ain't gonna just go by itself. Then that has this bracket which holds the front, just as an extra support. And then that comes to this bracket here, which goes down with an adjustable piece of linkage that goes to the pump, which is way back there. And then of course this clutch, which on this particular hydro is basically just a belt tensioner. But if you move the clutch pedal, it does move. So that's pretty cool. That's something I had to make, which that's just 1/8 inch thick steel with a spacer there to keep it away from the frame to have the belt lined up with the hydro pump. So that should work perfectly. So the next thing here, believe it or not, is actually to mount the engine already. And hopefully put a belt on if I have one the right size. I hope so. And next time I have the camera on, I should be able to start this up and hopefully drive it. That's assuming this rear end works, so we'll just hope for the best. So I'm going to get the engine mounted and come back and give you an update on it. Alright, so back with an update on it. So the transmission that was in it is sitting over there, which is definitely not a good thing. So that's because I started it up and it immediately started pouring oil all over the place. I didn't even have a chance to really drive it anywhere. In fact, you can still see residue all over the floor from where it happened. So, oh, that sucked. I had to pull that whole transmission out. It was leaking through the spot I was kind of guessing it was going to leak, but I wasn't expecting it to be that bad, which was where these hoses connect right here. You can see there's a bunch of JB weld there where I was trying to seal it up, but I guess it wasn't enough. And I was just pouring all over the place. So I swapped in this transmission here, which is still a hydro. Not my favorite one. This one leaks a little bit, but not bad. It's a Hydro Gear 10L transmission. Not the most durable transmission or my favorite, but it's a hydro, and I had my mind set on the hydro, and this was already set up for that, so it's kind of what it is. So the next step I'm going to do here is I'm going to mount the lower grill, and then probably get the hood and stuff put on. And then I also still got to do the battery tray, which I've got to make that from scratch. So this little piece of metal here is going to become the battery tray. I've got to cut it yet and make it fit, because it's a little bit too wide. So that's going to go something like that. And then this is a piece of metal I poorly cut out with the plasma cutter, and then riveted the original SS16 serial number plate on it. And then, of course, that's going to go right here. More like what it, originally would have. So, next step here, I'm going to get this hood put on. And then maybe a seat. And then next time I have the camera on, it should be ready to take for an actual test drive. And then we'll go from there. Alright, I'm finally at the point where I can probably take it for a ride. But this hood fought me for so long. I've spent like probably an hour and a half getting this hood on it, which is ridiculous. So I had to kind of break the corner of the front grille off, which I don't really, normally I'm totally against that, but on this tractor, it's kind of whatever, because the whole bottom there is broken. And then, of course, the inside is cracked and repaired, sort of, over there. So it's definitely an on mint condition grill, so it is kind of what it is. I don't really care. And the engine should have been over that way, but it was my mistake. I should have, lined up the lower grill first and seen if it was going to fit or not. And the other issue is the, homemade dash with a homemade hood. It just doesn't really want to work. And then these hood latches are off of one with the plastic dash that, always breaks. So it latches on this side. I can't get that side to latch. I got to raise it up a little bit, but I'm just like, whatever. I'm done. So the next step would be probably paint the rims, put the mower deck hanger on. Basic wiring, it just needs a key for the kill switch. I need to put a hole in the dash for the throttle assembly. And I don't know, there's not much left other than that. Hydro release, that's not a big deal. And then of course the time lapse for getting the other one built, since I didn't do time lapse on this one. But that is going to be it for this video. I'm going to leave you with me actually taking this thing for a test drive finally.